I'm Sophia Lang, and for the last 8 Thanksgivings I've sat through Cedar Grove, HOA's annual block party, listening to President Karen Whitaker explain in her syrupy Southern drawl why I'm the neighborhood disappointment. This year, she hired professional help to prove it. What she got instead was a front row seat to her own empire crumbling. If you've ever been the HOA scapegoat, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. Cedar Grove looked like every Pinterest-perfect suburb on the outside. White picket fences, gleaming lawns cut with military precision American flags snapping in the breeze. Underneath, it was a police state run by Karen Whitaker and her loyal board of busybodies. Karen had been president for 12 years, ruling with an iron fist wrapped in pastel cardigans. She spoke in that fake polite voice that could slice you open while smiling. We're just maintaining community standards, darling. Standards that somehow always changed whenever someone annoyed her. I moved in 8 years ago after my grandmother left me enough to buy the house cash. Grandma Rose had lived 2 streets, overloved by everyone until she passed. She pulled me aside in the hospital and whispered, "Don't tell them, Sophia. They'll try to take it." She left me $2.3 million in a trust specifically for this house and a note. You're the only one who visited because you cared, not because you needed something. The rest are vultures. She wasn't wrong. I kept it quiet. Paid cash. Drove my 3-year-old Honda Civic. Wore hoodies to the block parties. Never upgraded to the McMansion look everyone else chased. That made me public enemy number 1. First it was the grass. Sophia, honey, your blades are measuring 2.7 inches. Violation notice number 47 this year. Karen would hand me the pink slip with her manicured nails clicking like tiny guillotines. Then the trash can left out 2 minutes past 8 a.m. We have standards. Then the political flag I hung on July 4th. Not the right size, apparently. It's just not HOA approved, dear. Every fine was $250. Every meeting she'd cite dramatically in front of the whole block. Some people just don't understand what it means to be part of a community. I paid every fine without complaint. Smiled. Nodded. Inside, I was building something they could never touch. By 23, I'd already sold my first startup. At 28, my cybersecurity company, SecureNet AI, hit $140 million valuation. We had Fortune 500 clients, Department of Defense contracts, NDAs thicker than Karen's rulebook. I lived modestly on purpose. Drove the old Civic because I liked it. Kept the house simple because I didn't need to prove anything. Meanwhile, Karen's husband Derek drove a leased Mercedes every 2 years. Their pool house looked like a small resort. Their son played travel soccer on HOA-funded fields while Karen bragged about community investment. What the neighbors didn't know was that every single fine they collected somehow funded Karen's Tuscany trips and Derek's golf club memberships. I never corrected their assumptions. Sophia's still in her tech phase. Karen would coo at block parties, her voice dripping fake concern. She'll figure out real neighborhood living eventually. Derek loved the spotlight. Just closed another big deal at the bank, he'd announce while everyone clapped. Then they'd turn to me. And Sophia, how's that little coding thing going? I'd shrug. It's fine. They had no idea SecureNet AI had just landed a $20 million DoD contract. Forbes wanted me on their 30 under 30, but I delayed publication for 2 years. I wanted to see who they really were when they thought I had nothing. 2 years ago, Grandma Rose's estate finally closed. The board found out about the inheritance. Some nosy cousin spilled it. Suddenly, I was the manipulator. She must have sweet-talked that poor old woman, Karen whispered loudly at the annual meeting. It's not right that one resident gets special treatment. They started circling. Derek began casually asking about my finances at the mailbox. Karen's best friend, Jennifer, started dropping hints about estate planning help. Then came the October board meeting that changed everything. Karen called an emergency session about ongoing compliance issues. I walked into the community center to find the entire board plus half the neighborhood already seated. Karen stood at the podium in her pearl necklace looking every inch the gracious dictator. Sophia, we've been patient, she began, voice honeyed. But these violations keep piling up. And quite frankly, we're concerned. You claim financial hardship every time we discuss payment plans, yet you own this lovely home outright thanks to certain circumstances. She let the word hang like a noose. Derek leaned forward, smirking. We think it's time for transparency, darling. I stayed calm. I've paid every fine on time. Karen's smile tightened. Yes, but we suspect there's more to the story. We've decided to hire an independent investigator. Thomas Warren from Warren Investigations. He'll present his full findings at the Thanksgiving block party, in front of everyone. That way we can all move forward as a community. The room erupted in murmurs of approval. They wanted witnesses to my humiliation. They wanted to prove I was hiding money, playing poor to dodge their ridiculous rules. I simply nodded. Okay. Karen blinked, confused by my lack of panic. Okay. That's all you have to say? I stood up. His findings will speak for themselves. I walked out. That night, I called my lawyer Richard and my business partner Marcus. They hired a PI to dig into me. Marcus laughed so hard he nearly dropped his coffee. Sophia, they have no idea what they just stepped in. Because here's what they didn't know. I built SecureNet AI on one principle. Know your enemy's dirt before they know yours. A year earlier, after Karen's fines turned vicious, I'd quietly run background checks on the entire board. What we found made their grass-hide obsession look adorable. Derek Whitaker had been skimming HOA vendor contracts for 3 years. Fake invoices, ghost payments totaling $127,000. Karen and her inner circle had opened credit cards in the name of deceased residents, including my own grandmother right before she died. $89,000 in charges routed to P.O. boxes. My parents, the board treasurer couple, had been running shell companies through the community pool renovation fund. $264,000 in straight fraud. Combined, the board had stolen nearly $500,000 from the very neighbors they lectured about standards. I smiled in the dark. They wanted a public reveal. They were going to get one. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, my phone rang from an unknown number. Miss Lang, this is Thomas Warren. Your board hired me to investigate your finances. His voice sounded tired already. I need to speak with you privately before the block party. This case isn't normal. I met him at a coffee shop off the main road. Thomas was 50-ish, gray hair, kind eyes that now looked genuinely troubled. He slid a thick folder across the table. I found what they paid me to find Sophia. You're the CEO of SecureNet AI. Company valued at $140 million. You personally worth over $80 million. Recent DoD contract. Forbes feature delayed at your request. Everything they wanted exposed. He paused. But I also found everything else. The board's financials. The embezzlement. The fraud. The identity theft on deceased residents. I have an ethical obligation to present the complete picture. I thought you deserved a heads up. I stayed perfectly still. Present everything, Thomas. They want it public. They'll get public. He exhaled. This is going to get ugly. You might want security at that party. I already had it arranged. My lawyer, Richard Morrison, would be there. My trusted investigator, Jennifer Reeves, former FBI, would be there. And I had every document backed up in 3 different secure locations. Back at my simple house, I looked around at the plain furniture, the old Civic in the driveway, the single American flag that apparently wasn't the approved size. 8 years of being called the problem child. 8 years of Karen's condescending smiles and $250 fines for breathing wrong. I felt that familiar calm settle in, the same calm I had when closing million-dollar contracts. The day of the block party arrived sunny and perfect, the kind of November afternoon Karen loved for photo ops. 20 picnic tables lined the community green. Every resident invited. Karen had gone all out, catered food, rented tents, even a live band. She wanted maximum audience for my public shaming. I arrived at 3:45 wearing my usual jeans and hoodie, but I'd added grandma's diamond earrings just for the occasion. Richard showed up looking every inch the high-powered attorney. Jennifer arrived right on time, FBI posture unmistakable. Thomas Warren was already seated at the head table with 2 large manila envelopes and his laptop. Karen spotted me immediately. "Sophia, darling, so glad you could make it." Her voice carried across the lawn like a church bell. She wore a festive red blazer, pearls gleaming. Derek stood beside her, smug as ever. The rest of the board flanked them like a royal court. The entire neighborhood turned to watch. Whispers rippled. "Here we go." Karen clinked her wine glass. The crowd fell silent. "Thank you all for coming. Before we enjoy this beautiful Thanksgiving feast, we have some important community business to address. As many of you know, there have been ongoing concerns about certain residents and their transparency." She looked straight at me. "We love Sophia, but we've been worried. She claims financial difficulty every time we discuss fines, yet she owns her home outright thanks to an inheritance many of us feel was questionable. We decided we needed answers." Derek stepped forward, chest puffed. "So we hired the best. Thomas Warren from Warren Investigations. He's been conducting a comprehensive background check for the past 6 weeks." All eyes swung to me. I remained seated, hands folded calmly on the picnic table. Karen's smile was pure venom wrapped in sugar. "Mr. Warren, would you please present your findings?" Thomas stood. He looked like a man who knew he was about to drop a bomb. "Before I begin, let me clarify what I was hired to do. The board asked me to investigate Sophia Lang's finances, specifically to determine if she was hiding assets or income related to her inheritance and property ownership." Derek prompted eagerly, and Thomas exhaled. "I found what you asked me to find, and significantly more. I have 2 reports. Per my contract, I'm required to present the complete findings, not selective information." The crowd murmured. Karen frowned. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means I investigated Sophia thoroughly. But in doing so, I necessarily examined everyone connected to her financial history. That includes all of you." The entire block party went dead silent. You could hear the American flags snapping in the breeze. Thomas opened the first envelope. "Report 1, Sophia Lang's financial status." He began reading in a clear, steady voice. "Sophia Lang is the founder and CEO of SecureNet AI, a cybersecurity company headquartered in Austin. The company was valued at $140 million as of last month's audit. Ms. Lang owns 60%, making her personal holdings worth approximately $84 million. In addition, she maintains a personal investment portfolio of $23 million real estate, holdings of $4.7 million, and liquid assets of $8 million. Her company recently secured a $20 million Department of Defense contract." Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. Derek's face went the color of old milk. Karen's perfect smile froze mid-curl. Thomas slid a folder across the table to me. "Miss Lang, your complete financial profile. Everything the board asked me to find. I didn't even open it. I already knew what was inside." Karen's voice came out strangled. "You've been lying to us for years." I finally spoke, calm as ever. "I never lied, Karen. I told you I worked in tech. I said I was doing fine. Everything I said was true. I just didn't specify exactly how fine." Jennifer, the board secretary, shrieked. "You let us think you were struggling." I corrected gently. "You assumed. I lived modestly. I drove an old car. I kept things simple. Those were my choices. I never asked for extensions on fines. I never complained. You made assumptions." Derek slammed his hand on the table. "You hid this from the entire community." "Yes," I said simply. "I did. Because I wanted to know if you'd treat me with basic decency without knowing my bank account. And now I know the answer." The crowd was buzzing. Some neighbors looked embarrassed. Others looked furious at being fooled. Thomas cleared his throat. "If I may continue, there is a second report." Karen's face had gone from Botox smooth to cracked porcelain. "This is ridiculous. We hired you to investigate her, not us." Thomas didn't blink. "Mr. Whitaker, you in particular need to hear report 2. Something in his tone cut through the noise like a knife. Derek slowly sat back down. Thomas opened the second envelope. His voice stayed clinical. "Report 2. Financial irregularities discovered during the investigation. In the course of examining Sophia Lang, I conducted standard due diligence on all individuals connected to the inheritance and property records. This included background checks on the current HOA board. He pulled out a thick document. Derek Whitaker, employed at First National Bank as regional manager. During my investigation, I discovered irregularities in vendor contracts managed through the HOA accounts over the past 3 years. Fake invoices, non-existent services, ghost payments. Total embezzled $127,000. Derek shot to his feet. That's a lie you can't prove. Thomas slid a folder toward him. Wire transfers, forged receipts, email correspondence from accounts you personally created. I've already contacted the bank's fraud department. Their investigation began this morning. Derek's legs gave out. He collapsed back into his folding chair like someone had cut his strings. Thomas continued, voice never rising. Karen Whitaker and Jennifer Hargrove. In the 6 months before and 3 months after Eleanor Thompson's death, a longtime resident who left specific bequests, 23 credit cards were opened in Eleanor's name. Charges totaling $89,000. The bills were routed to a P.O. box registered to Jennifer. This constitutes identity theft, fraud, and elder financial abuse. Jennifer started screaming. She was going to leave the community money. You stole from a dying woman, Thomas said flatly. He slid another folder across the table. Every application, every forged signature, every bill. The U.S. Postal Inspector will receive this file on Monday. The crowd was no longer murmuring. They were openly gasping. Phones were coming out. Recording. Karen was backing away from the podium, shaking her head. This is a witch hunt. Thomas looked at the treasurer couple, Robert and Linda, the ones who always voted with Karen. Working with Derek's access to HOA banking, you created multiple shell companies. Fake renovation invoices for the community pool and playground. Funds routed to accounts you control. The scheme has operated for 3 years. Total fraud, $264,000. Linda's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the concrete. Red liquid spread like blood. No one moved to clean it. Thomas stacked the folders neatly. Combined, the current HOA board, excluding any honest members, has committed financial crimes totaling approximately $480,000. I've documented everything. Emails, bank records, forged documents, wire transfers. It's comprehensive. The block party had gone graveyard quiet except for Jennifer sobbing. Jennifer Reeves stood up from the back row and flashed her credentials. Jennifer Reeves, former FBI, now private investigator. Mr. Warren's findings have been independently verified and will be turned over to appropriate law enforcement agencies. Federal charges are likely given the interstate nature of some transactions. Richard Morrison rose next. Richard Morrison, attorney representing Sophia Lang and several affected former residents. Any attempts to contest inheritance distributions or retaliate against Miss Lang will be met with immediate legal action. Her finances are completely separate from your criminal activities. Karen finally found her voice raspy and desperate. Sophia, please, we can explain. This is all a misunderstanding. We were just protecting the community. I stood up slowly. Every eye followed me. 8 years. I said quietly, voice carrying across the green without shouting. 8 Thanksgivings I've sat at these tables and listened to you explain why I was the problem resident. Why my grass was never perfect enough, why my car was an eyesore, why I didn't understand real community values. I turned to Derek. You embezzled from your own neighbors while lecturing me about paying fines on time. I faced Karen. You stole from dying residents while demanding I show transparency. I looked at the entire board. I built a $140 million company that protects hospitals and military bases while you were forging documents and calling me dishonest. I secured government contracts while you were padding your vacation funds. I was featured in Forbes while you were committing crimes and calling me a fraud. I picked up the folder Thomas had given me. This is everything you wanted to know about my success. Consider it my final gift to this community. I turned to Thomas. Thank you for your thoroughness. To Richard, please proceed with all legal options to protect the affected residents. To Jennifer, the files are yours. Do what's right. Then I looked straight at Karen one last time. You wanted a public reveal, Karen. You got one. Just not the one you expected. I walked toward the parking lot. The crowd remained frozen. Karen's voice cracked behind me. Sophia, you can't just leave. We're a community. I stopped in on my car door. No, Karen. You're a corporation that stole from its members. Community is the people who treat you decently when you have nothing. You chose greed. I choose to walk away. The aftermath hit faster than even I expected. Derek was fired from the bank on Tuesday. Criminal charges filed Wednesday. By Friday, Jennifer had left him taking the kids to her parents. Their dream pool house went up for sale at a loss. Karen's husband, Derek was her husband, tried to spin on the neighborhood Facebook group, but the post got deleted faster than HOA violation notices. Karen and Jennifer were arrested on federal charges the following Monday. Bail set at $50,000 each. Money they suddenly didn't have after the accounts were frozen. They spent 3 days in county jail before a bondsman would even talk to them. The treasurer couple Robert and Linda received notice their bank accounts were frozen pending investigation. Robert's credit card declined at the grocery store. Linda had a very public meltdown in the frozen food aisle when she realized the community fund she'd been stealing from was now gone. I knew all this because Marcus set up news alerts, not because any of them could reach me. Richard sent cease and desist letters to the entire former board, making it clear any attempt to contact me would result in harassment charges. The extended neighbors who'd nodded along at every meeting scattered like cockroaches when the lights came on. Suddenly, no one had known about the investigation. Everyone claimed they'd just come for the turkey. The same people who'd reported my trash, being out too long, now avoided eye contact at the mailbox. Within 2 weeks, Derek accepted a plea deal, 18 months prison, 5 years probation, full restitution. Felony record. Career over. Karen and Jennifer's trial was set for 4 months out, but their lawyers were already whispering plea agreements. Federal prosecutors had everything: the P.O. boxes, the forged signatures, the credit card applications. No defense. Robert and Linda faced the longest investigations. Their shell company scheme was complex, years in the making. But every fake invoice, every fraudulent wire was documented. Their attorneys gave them the honest truth. Plead guilty, hope for reduced sentences. 6 weeks after the block party, I received a letter. Richard intercepted it per our agreement and called. It's from Karen. Want to hear it? I hesitated for half a second. Some small part of me still hoped for an actual apology. Read it. Richard cleared his throat. Sophia, I know you won't speak to us, but I'm writing to beg you to reconsider. We're losing everything. The house is in foreclosure. We have no money. Derek can't work while under investigation. We need help. I know we made mistakes, but we're a community. Community helps each other. Please. Love, Karen. The letter was about money. Even now, I told Richard draft a response. Tell her I did reconsider. For 8 years, I reconsidered every time she handed me a violation notice, every time she called me the problem resident, every time she demanded transparency while forging documents. My answer is no. Why? He asked gently. Because they're not losing everything because I won't help. They're losing everything because they stole $500,000 from their neighbors while preaching about standards. Natural consequences aren't cruelty. They're just consequences. 2 months later, Karen and Jennifer accepted plea deals. 3 years prison each, restitution, 5 years probation. Derek was already inside. Robert and Linda got 2 years each. The HOA board dissolved overnight. A court-appointed receiver took over. New elections were scheduled. The neighborhood changed. Some residents quietly thanked me at the mailbox. Others sold their houses and moved, embarrassed by the scandal. The ridiculous rules slowly loosened. No more $250 fines for grass height 2.7 inches. The community fund was audited and the stolen money partially recovered and returned. 9 months after the block party, I sat in my office at SecureNet AI headquarters. We just landed another major contract. Valuation up to $180 million. Ford's wanted a new interview. Marcus knocked on my door. You have a visitor. She says she's your former neighbor, Michelle. I hadn't seen Michelle since the party. Send her in. Michelle looked exhausted. No makeup, casual clothes, nothing like the polished HOA socialite she used to be. Sophia, I know you probably don't want to see me. Sit down. She sat, hands twisting in her lap. I wanted to apologize. I was at that party. I didn't say anything when Karen announced the investigator. I should have warned you. Why didn't you? Because I thought they were right. I thought you were hiding money and playing victim. I didn't realize they were the ones stealing. You could have asked me directly. Would you have told me the truth? I considered it. Probably not. I wasn't telling anyone. Can I ask why? Why hide it? Why let them think you were struggling? I've been asked this question a dozen times by Marcus, by my therapist. The answer was simple now. Because I needed to know if they'd treat me with basic human decency without knowing my bank account. I needed to know if I mattered beyond what I could provide. And I got my answer. Michelle nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. They called me last week from prison. Collect calls. They wanted me to convince you to help them. What did you say? I said no. I said they did this to themselves. She looked up. Sophia, I lost my whole social circle over this. My friends won't speak to me because I won't help pressure you. I'm sorry. Don't be. You were right. They were so focused on what I had that they couldn't see what they were destroying. And I was complicit by staying silent. We sat quietly for a moment. What will you do now? I asked. Start over. I got a job. Marketing coordinator at a startup. I'm selling my SUV to pay off debt. Learning to live within my means. She smiled weakly. Turns out not having HOA drama money means actually working. That's good, I said and meant it. She stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. What you built, how you handled everything. You had every right to destroy them, and you just walked away. I didn't destroy them. Their own choices did that. I just stopped protecting them from the consequences. After Michelle left, I sat looking out at the Austin skyline. My city, my company, my life, built exactly the way I wanted. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Team dinner tonight. The new interns want to hear the HOA story. I smiled. This was my community now. The people who believed in me when I had nothing but an idea. Who celebrated my wins and never once asked what I could give them, only what we could build together. I texted back, I'll be there. A year later, SecureNet AI was acquired by a Fortune 100 company for $320 million. I kept the leadership role and a significant stake. My personal net worth crossed $200 million. Derek finished his sentence and moved across the country. Last I heard, he was working retail, living with a roommate. Karen's husband tried to reconcile with her after release, but she'd already moved to a retirement community in Florida where no one knew her history. The inheritance from Grandma Rose, the $2.3 million that started everything, had grown to $8 million through careful investing. I donated the entire amount to a foundation supporting financial literacy programs for seniors in neighborhoods plagued by predatory HOAs. The irony wasn't lost on me. I never spoke to the old board again. Some people called it cruel. I called it self-preservation. Because here's what I learned in that sunny cul-de-sac turned battlefield. Community isn't about perfect lawns or approved flag sizes. It's not about obligation or guilt or shared zip codes. Community is the people who treat you with respect when you drive an old Honda and your grass is 2.7 inches. Community is the people who celebrate your success instead of trying to find it out of you. Community is chosen, not assigned by a board of embezzlers. My community is Marcus and the team we built. My community is the mentor who saw potential in a quiet coder with big ideas. My community is the memory of Grandma Rose, who loved me enough to protect me from the vultures. The old Cedar Grove board chose greed over decency. They chose power over people. They chose to steal rather than build their own success. Those were their choices. I chose to walk away. That was mine, and I've never regretted it for a single second. If you've ever had to stand up to an HOA Karen or walk away from a toxic neighborhood to save your sanity, tell me your story in the comments. Does any of this feel familiar? What would you have done if the neighborhood dictator tried to publicly humiliate you? Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about quiet revenge, smart boundaries, and not letting anyone, not even the president of the HOA, treat you like you're less than you are. Because you're not the neighborhood disappointment. You never were. Sometimes you're just the only one strong enough to cut the grass at 2.7 inches and still win the whole damn game.